I am Malik Pancholi, and I am deeply humbled to be your host for the next part of the afternoon. This is a very exciting part of the day. It is the inaugural Asian American Pioneer Medal Ceremony. Shortly, you're going to be hearing more about our first ever Asian American Pioneer medalists, Teresa Meng, Nasir Ahmed, Frank C. Chang, Dawon Kahng, Simon Z, and Raj Reddy. How about a round of applause for our medalists? Before we share more about their work with you, please join me in welcoming AASF Executive Director Gisela Kusakawa, who is going to introduce guests from the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, OSTP, and the National Science Foundation. Please welcome Gisela Kusakawa.
Well, thank you so much, Malik. It is my great pleasure to introduce and welcome White House OSTP Director, Dr. Arati Prabhakar. Besides being the OSTP Director, Dr. Prabhakar is the President's Chief Advisor for Science and Technology, a member of the President's Cabinet, and co-chair of the President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology. We thank her for her work with ASF and joining us to congratulate our esteemed medal recipients. Welcome, Dr. Prabhakar.
Hi, everyone. It's my great privilege to say congratulations from the White House to the Asian American Pioneer medalists. One of the reasons I am so proud to work for President Biden and Vice President Harris is that they know that the way America does big things is by building on the contributions of everyone, regardless of background. And the Asian American Scholars Forum is doing extremely important work to make sure that this always remains true. We had a great meeting when they were here at the White House just a few months ago. One of the things that I really appreciated is that they understood that a powerful way to fight discrimination is to bring to life the stories of Asian American researchers who have had tremendous impact. And that's why I thought the idea of a Pioneer Award was just terrific. When we met, I asked who they were going to honor, and they mentioned Simon Z as one of the names. As they said his name, the image from the cover of his book appeared right before my eyes. His book on physics of semiconductor devices came out when I was a graduate student. And looking at the other awardees, I'm guessing that many of them also remember that book. It has on its cover a photograph of the first ever transistor from 1947. It's this big clunky transistor that was the beginning of changing the world. That book was so foundational for me and my education. It still sits on my bookshelf at home. That came out decades ago, but in the years since then, I've had the opportunity to get to know almost all of the awardees for this year, and that is such a privilege because I see their impact on our society every single day. They have changed how people around the world live, and that is what it's all about. A few months ago, President Biden ended his State of the Union address by saying, "Let's build the future together." And I cannot imagine a more exciting invitation than that. These pioneers have paved the way so that everyone can come together to build the future. Thanks again for all your work, and have a great event.
Well, thank you, Dr. Prabhakar, for those heartwarming remarks, and her team as well for welcoming us at the White House and their work and support for ASF. Next, I would like to welcome Dr. Sethuraman Panchanathan, Director of the National Science Foundation, to share some remarks for our awardees today and all of you at our inaugural Asian American Pioneer Medal Ceremony.
Hello, and thank you for inviting me to speak with you at the inaugural Asian American Pioneer Medal Symposium and Ceremony. Although I could not join you in person today, I wanted to share my heartfelt congratulations to this year's amazing medal recipients. NSF is proud to partner with AASF on Project Pioneer to tell the stories of the countless Asian American scholars, researchers, and pioneers who have transformed American life through invention and innovation. Everywhere we look, we can find the fingerprints of Asian American innovators and scholars on the modern world, impacting and improving the daily lives of people across the globe. That is what makes this symposium so important. Celebrating the tremendous STEM contributions of the Asian American community reinforces the fact that our greatest strength is the diverse talent that exists in every corner of America. Thank you to Professors Yue-Sai and Kailath for your work in putting together this wonderful event, highlighting the value of unleashing that potential. I look forward to continuing to work with Executive Director Kusakawa and everyone at AASF to lift up the lives and work of Asian American pioneers like those we celebrate today and inspire the next generation of change makers. The inaugural recipients of the Asian American Pioneers Medal are certainly deserving. Dr. Nasir Ahmed, Dr. Raj Reddy, Dr. M.C. Frank Chang, and Dr. Teresa Meng, your remarkable achievements have made the digital world what it is today and are essential components of what it will become tomorrow. We also remember and honor the lives and contributions of Dr. Simon Tse and Dawon Kahng, whose revolutionary invention transformed the world. Congratulations to all of today's awardees, and congratulations to the Asian American Scholars Forum on a successful first symposium. I look forward to sharing the stories and legacies of many more Asian American pioneers in the years to come. Thank you.
On behalf of ASF, I send my deepest thanks to Dr. Panchanathan and everyone at NSF for partnering with us on Project Pioneer and working to lift up our American history of incredible Asian American pioneers. I'll now hand it back to Maulik. Now, for those of you who don't know, Maulik Panchkali is an award-winning actor, author, and activist. You've seen him on shows like 30 Rock and Only Murders in the Building. He's the voice of Baljeet on Disney's Phineas and Ferb and the voice of Sanjay on Nickelodeon's Sanjay and Craig. He's also the author of 2 award-winning novels, The Best at It and Nickel Out Loud. He served on President Obama's Advisory Commission on AAPIs and co-founded the AAPI anti-bullying nonprofit Act to Change. I turn it back to you, Maulik.
Thank you so much, Gisela. I know what you're all thinking. He's an actor. He's the voice of Baljeet on Phineas and Ferb. He's an author. He's an activist. The perfect MC for a science event. Now, in all my defense, I was very good at chemistry. Oh wait, that's already funny. That's not even the punchline. I was very good at chemistry like 30 years ago in high school. was the punchline. But I promise to do my best to not let anything explode on stage today. There might be a few bad jokes. You'll have to bear with me. In all seriousness, today you will see that the sciences and the arts are actually inextricably entwined. Both involve trial and error. In acting, we call that auditioning. In science, you call it experiments. And both fields know the pain of someone saying, yeah, that's not quite what we're looking for. In all seriousness, science is what brings my work on television into millions of homes around the world. And fundamentally, both disciplines explore the unknown and push the boundaries of human understanding. I am also deeply honored to be a part of AASF's mission of promoting belonging. As a young, gay, Indian American man growing up in the Midwest, I never saw myself on television. I never saw myself in the books I read. I often felt like I didn't belong. That's what made me determined to offer that representation to AAPI youth through the roles that I play on television, through the books that I write. And let me tell you, it has not always been easy because I offer that representation, my books have been banned in parts of this country. So the work of AASF is deeply, deeply important to me. Enough about me. Today we honor true pioneers. They each have their own distinctive life story, full of hope, joy, and triumphs, but, and this is very important for all the young people in this audience, not without their share of hardships and disappointments. What they all do have in common is an unshakable faith in science and in America. Now, you ask any actor, ask me, and we will tell you that success in the arts takes at least 3 things. You've got to have talent, you've got to have character, and yeah, you've got to have a little bit of luck. And that's true of science too. But luck is nurtured by talent. When luck strikes, the talent has to be ready. And talent is a quality that all of our awardees have in spades. But character deserves a special mention. It takes a unique person to hear, "It can't be done," over and over and over again, and react by saying, "Yes, it can. Let me show you." When everybody else said, "No way," each of our honorees said, "Why not? Hold my lab coat." Their extraordinary characters extends to their families as well. Their decision to immigrate to America was an act of love and courage, rooted in the belief that talent and discipline will always triumph over fear and discrimination. Now, when I audition for something, only one of us gets it. But lucky for us, science and engineering are not a zero-sum game. When science is done well, we all benefit from scientific progress. So today, while it will feel very good for all of us to give awards to people who so richly deserve them, I think that more importantly, we are rejoicing their accomplishments for the enormous impact they have had on our lives. For example, consider that right now, you could take your phone out of your pocket. I see some of you already have your phones out of your pocket. You could take your phone out of your pocket and you could Zoom with someone across the planet. Please don't do that right now while I'm talking, but you could if you wanted to. You could check on the latest results from the Paris Olympics. How many Beyonce fans are in the house? Cowboy Carter, anyone download the Cowboy Carter album the first day it came out? No one? BTS? K-pop fans? Please tell me there's some K-pop fans in the house. You could stream your favorite music on your phone right now. For all of these amazing achievements, we owe this year's Asian American Pioneer medalists a huge debt of gratitude. Let's take a closer look at their magnificent contributions. Our first award will be presented by John Hennessy and Diane Greene. John Hennessy is a former Stanford University president, Turing Award winner, former chair of Atheros, and current chair of Alphabet, Google's parent company. Diane Greene is the founder and former CEO of VMware, former chairwoman of MIT Corporation, and on the boards of Stripe and Wix. And I feel like I doubled my IQ by just saying all of that. Please welcome John Hennessy and Diane Greene to the stage.
Thank you. When Teresa Meng proposed making a breakthrough in terms of wireless local area networks, people didn't believe the technology would work. There were lots of failures. But Teresa proposed a new approach using CMOS to reduce power and cost. And she overcame the barriers that so many people thought could not be overcome.
Hi. So when I first met Teresa, it was early in the days of T-SPAN and then Atheros. And once I understood what she was doing, I was in awe of her because not very many people have the deep technical expertise and are able to invent a new way of doing things and then go on and co-found a company and successfully bring it to market and have such impact. And Teresa is an even more rarefied territory because I and ChatGPT were hard-pressed to come up with another woman that had achieved both of these things. So in addition to being a pioneer, she is a unique role model for women. Thank you. And now we'll hear more about her on the video.
While talking on your phone is great, having internet access everywhere all the time, kind of good, right? Well, that is exactly what Dr. Teresa Meng thought.
Meng emigrated from Taiwan in 1983 and came to the U.S. to work in the field of wireless communications.
She had a vision, a wireless future. What seems obvious now was anything but back in the mid-90s.
Wi-Fi didn't even exist. That was considered crazy back then.
We all have Wi-Fi now, but when Teresa started, it was unknown.
The industry was not interested in doing this.
Because it was difficult and expensive to implement, and we changed that. Teresa had invented this amazing technology. Her invention was figuring out how to do radio frequency devices in CMOS. And the thing that is so important about CMOS is that it is the easiest kind of semiconductor to make. And that means that it's also the least expensive. So when we realized that we could use her invention for Wi-Fi, this was both a huge discovery and a real revelation.
If you believe wireless is the way people want to communicate in the future, this is the way how we're going to implement it.
She asked her friend, former Stanford president and computing legend John Hennessy, what to do. The answer came swiftly: start your own company.
I never worked in industry before. I was just a professor, but I said, okay, I'll give it a try.
She took leave from her professorship at Stanford and started Atheros Communications.
It was pretty hard starting a company because I literally learned everything from scratch.
As you try to build a company and make it successful, you encounter all kinds of problems. And many of these problems had a lot of emotion associated with them because people had invested a lot in trying to solve them one way or another.
The biggest obstacle we ran into in the sense of fundraising was most investors believe that the communication will be telephone line. The one even said that I don't believe this crap because God didn't intend CMOS to be operating in gigahertz. That was a quote.
But once we started making Wi-Fi devices in CMOS, other people saw what we were doing and said, oh, we better do that too. Otherwise, we'll be left behind.
By the late 1990s, tech giants all agreed that Wi-Fi was coming, but not for a good 10 years.
I said 10 years? I can do it in 2 years. What are you talking about? We should not wait that long.
Teresa, of course, was one of the early female founders of a technology company. And this was important to all of us.
I think the most difficult challenge that I have faced and actually survived and succeeded is actually being a woman in a male-dominated profession. The most difficult form of discrimination is the subtle one. It is tough because this form of discrimination or prejudice usually came as a kindly worded advice. Women really have to be very careful to differentiate advice that help us to reach our goal or the advice that simply serve to convince ourselves that we simply cannot do a man's job. It was really, really, really hard because these battles are tough. You'll be faced with obstacles, you'll be faced with all kinds of insults, but fundamentally, they just don't believe women can stand alone. Women can make their own stories.
And in a few years, Dr. Teresa Meng made her vision come true. And thanks to her, the cost of wireless communication dropped by a factor of 5,000.
It actually made Wi-Fi easy and inexpensive and ultimately pervasive.
I just think that people should have access to cheap or free, ubiquitous data as a basic human right. Everybody should be able to communicate without being held hostage by the cell phone company. What I call back then democratizing the airway.
I think this invention was something that she just enabled us to make this quantum leap forward like we've never seen before.
If today 90% of the world owns a smartphone, they owe their thanks to the scientific creativity and perseverance of Dr. Meng.
When we started Theros more than 20 years ago, it was generally believed that ubiquitous, high-speed, wireless data communication was not possible. I decided to give it a try.
And now we are thrilled to welcome the brave and brilliant Dr. Teresa Meng to the stage.
Thank you, John and Diane, for your kind words. It's wonderful to see so many good friends and colleagues here, especially at Stanford, where I have worked most of my professional life in research and teaching. I also like to thank the organization of the Symposium to bring us together today. It is my great honor to receive this award. First, I'd like to thank President John Hennessy, whose support and encouragement in my research and the founding of Theros Communications. In my mind, this award belongs to the entire team, a Theros team, because it was only through the collective efforts of every team member that we could, our vision of providing data access free to everyone and everywhere could have become a reality today. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Congratulations, Dr. Meng. What a role model to all of us, I'm sure particularly to the young women in the audience. I don't know what CMOS means, but I don't. But anything that lets me binge watch Shogun on my phone while sitting in a park, I'm for. So thank you so much to Dr. Meng. Our next award will be presented by Eric Yuan and Andrea Goldsmith. Eric is the founder and CEO of Zoom, the app that introduced us all to the phrase, "You're on mute, you're on mute." And Andrea Goldsmith is Dean of Engineering and Applied Science at the esteemed Princeton University, where I hear even the squirrels on campus are getting their PhDs. Please welcome Eric Yuan and Andrea Goldsmith to the stage.
So literally, when I was 2 years old, a doctor invented a technology. That technology completely changed the way for us to work, live, learn, and play. With this technology, Zoom and YouTube are possible. Also with this technology, the face recognition, tumor detection, and the shape reconstruction, image compression are all possible. You all know I do not have a doctorate degree. It's hard for me to explain what this technology is about and who is the winner. With that, my friend Dr. Goldsmith will share with us all about this technology and also the winner.
Thank you so much. So the discrete cosine transform is a beautiful mathematical equation to represent any kind of signal. And so it could just be a beautiful mathematical equation. But thanks to our inventor, our winner, he had the vision to see that this mathematical representation of a signal allowed it to be represented very accurately in bits, what we use in our computers to store data and to send data and to use Zoom. And also, it was able to compress the data significantly. If we couldn't compress all these signals that we use for Zoom calls and video and watching cat videos and sending big files and doing AI, we wouldn't be able to do any of the things that we do today with those technologies. It was the discrete cosine transform, the DCT, that started the revolution in image compression and then compression of all these other types of signals. So really, the DCT is everywhere. It's in every one of your devices. It's in the things that you use every day. And we're going to hear more about it in the story of the video.
Dr. Ahmed's discovery, known by its acronym DCT, has made compression part of our daily lives. Have you ever watched video footage, listened to your favorite song on a music app, or looked at an image on a computer screen? DCT. Grateful for being able to hop on Zoom with your family during the pandemic? Thank you, Dr. Ahmed.
Thank you so much, Richard, for that wonderful introduction of Dr. Nasir Ahmed. I'm here today with Professor Min Woo at the University of Maryland's Clark School of Engineering. She is the first ever woman of color elected president of the IEEE Signal Processing Society. Min, we are here today to commemorate Dr. Nasir Ahmed's invention of DCT. What is the importance of DCT and what is it exactly?
DCT stands for discrete cosine transform. It's a very nerdy term from the research that Nasir did 50 years ago. But the DCT is in the heart of many of the multimedia compression and products that we use every day. But what is DCT exactly? From a computer's perspective, an image is a large collection of tiny colored dots called pixels. If you've ever seen point-to-list paintings by artists like Georges Seurat, you get the idea. Packing up pixels into a picture, a face made of separate dots, will appear smooth and seamless. With a few million pixels per frame and dozens of frames per second of video, it's a tremendous amount of data, and we need to have ways to make things smaller. And data compression enables us to do this, and with DCT in its heart. It has been used for decades and continue to be used today and for foreseeable future.
Now, if there was one thing that you wanted the next generation to remember about Nasir, what would that be?
I want the next generation to remember that we benefit every day or every hours from DCT to connect with each other. Think about the pandemic. We cannot meet and interact with each other easily in person. It is the video conferencing tools that help connect loved ones. In business can continue to collaborate. Students, even at the peak of the pandemic, can use video-based tools with DCT inside to keep up their learning. So it's really fair to say that DCT is driving those technologies that bring people together regardless of the physical distance. And this is really the amazing legacy of Nasir.
My name is Nasir Ahmed. I'm originally from Bangalore, India. And I came to the United States in 1961. When I was finishing my PhD, I came up with this discrete cosine transform, but it was a big challenge. I decided to write a proposal to ask for some money to work on this idea, and I thought it would get accepted because it was a very novel idea. But to my surprise, the reviewers said that the idea was too simple, and so they rejected the proposal. And so I told Kailath that I have this intuition that this thing is the way to do it, but can we afford to take the summer, 3 months, without any salary? She said, you know, we'll manage somehow. She used to tolerate my coming late from the office and waiting for me to eat with our son and her.
Él es un genio y a veces es muy difícil vivir con un genio.
So I kept working on it. I had a friend of mine, when I sent him the results that I got, he told me, publish these right away. From then on, everyone started referring to that short article. And this little algorithm that we published became the most efficient way of taking an image or a video, processing it in a way that it could be compressed and transmitted. It turned out that the discrete cosine transform survived to be the most widely used and became a standard. I couldn't predict how fast the technology would move, and just amazed of how all these technologies of FaceTime and Zoom, and to me, just the fact that I see it's being used so widely, I was telling my wife, it's the most wonderful gift. I have to emphasize that this wonderful woman that I have next to me from Monteros Tucumán helped me all through my career. She was always next to me.
No hay persona en el mundo a quien admire más que a mi marido. Esa es la pura verdad.
Tengo mucha suerte en mi vida, ¿sí?
So proud of you. See, I'm going to kiss you in front of everybody.
So unfortunately, Dr. Ahmed could not be with us this afternoon, but we are very delighted to welcome his son, Michael, the cute one in the picture, who's here to represent him. Please welcome Michael to the stage.
Thank you very much. This is a huge honor. And watching this video, I just keep thinking, was I adopted? I'm just a criminal defense lawyer. I wish I had my father's intellect and my mother's intellect. They're both amazing people, an even better inventor. I would say my dad's biggest accomplishment is being a father. He has just been the greatest father I could ever ask for, and my mother too. I want to thank her on behalf of my father, because without him and her early, undying, unconditional support for him and achieving the dream of the discrete cosine transform, this wouldn't have happened. He also wanted me to thank the professors on the selection committee and also the lovely, wonderful letters of recommendation he received, and also Eric and Andrea, thank you both. And finally, we want to thank the producers, Dan Fogelman, Jess Rosenthal, and Vera Herbert for their great job on season 5, episode 8 for This Is Us. Without them, we wouldn't be here. My dad would not be the man that you know him to be. He wouldn't have this fame. He wouldn't have been trending on Twitter that night. 6 million people saw that show, and so we thank the show, the producers, and the whole cast of This Is Us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Michael. I think we may need to add an award for Family of the Year for the Ahmed family. How beautiful are they? I am also pretty sure that discrete cosine transform was a band I auditioned for in college. Our next award will be presented by Dr. Derek Cheung and Tsai Guoqiang. Derek Cheung is the former president and CEO of Rockwell Scientific Inc., and Tsai Guoqiang is a renowned artist. He served as director of visual effects and fireworks for the opening and closing ceremonies of the 2008 Beijing Summer Olympics and the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics. So basically, if you need something that explodes and inspires awe, these are your guys. Please welcome Derek Cheung and Tsai Guoqiang to the stage.
Frank Chan. He is the core member of a team that developed a new technology called BiFET. And that's a device that enabled the wireless communication in every smartphone. So whenever you make a call, send a message, your message goes through Frank's device. Frank developed the technology at Rockwell International Science Center, and it was a very, very challenging task. It took over 10 years to go from basic research until it became a very robust technology that produced the products. And through this time, I have the great fortune to witness every step of the way. And what an experience to see a great research team turn something into something so impactful for our society.
I need a translator. Okay. 周末我跟我的朋友还有家人说我要到斯坦福去颁奖。
This past weekend, when I shared with my family members and my friends that I was going to attend an award ceremony at Stanford University,
大家都说祝贺祝贺。
everybody said immediately, "Congratulations."
因为大家很习惯我是穿着光亮在台上拿奖。
Because apparently everyone was so used to seeing me dressed up and basking the spotlight on the stage, receiving an award.
所以我是很高兴，第一次受奖，给人颁奖，是给一个对我也很有关系的，对大家也很有关系的了不起的科学家。
I'm especially and truly happy to be presenting an award this time, especially to an incredible scientist who is relevant to me and to lots of you here.
昨天大家可能有看到巴黎的奥运会开幕，然后我就让我的 AI 把我给这个巴黎奥运会开幕做的创意没有实现的，给它做成动画。
Yesterday, as you all know, the Paris Olympics opened. I actually had my custom-developed AI model called Yue-Sai to transform an unrealized idea into an animation.
但是再厉害的人工智能，都要更厉害的智能人工，一直教它要怎么干活。
But I have to confess, however advanced and intelligent an artificial intelligence is, it still requires intelligent human beings to guide the AI to get work done.
所以我要一直通过手机告诉他，这个烟花是打出去的，嘣放射出去，那个烟花是无人机带着给它喷出来的。
So in order for my AI model to generate that animation, I have to transfer numerous information through cell phone to explain to my AI Thai for each conception, for each fireworks product, how it will look like, whether it will be boom shot by one product or by some other product, or whether it will be launched by itself or be launched by aerial drone carrying within the product.
所以我就很感谢是 Frank 的这一个帮助，让我们的手机可以非常好的传递了，让这一个 AI 迅速知道是应该是还是应该是棒棒棒，全部知道。
So really, thanks to Frank's magical invention, I was able to very effectively and efficiently communicate all my instructions via cell phone to the my AI team, so that my AI will understand whether the fireworks will appear like shh or bang bang bang. 总之，我们要感谢他这一个神奇的
方便的又有效果的小东西，才能让我们这一些艺术家可以天马行空的创造我们那些大东西。
So truly, I have to say thank you to Frank's magical invention of this little miracle, which allows artists like me to create that so-called great and expensive artworks.
那个大东西是什么大？应该大家很快会看到，就在埃菲铁塔上面有一个倒的埃菲铁塔，用无人机炸出来。
So what is that so-called expensive artwork I was talking about that I did for the Paris Olympics opening and later transforming to, which was expressed through animation? Very soon, hopefully you will see on social media. One of the major sayings of that fireworks expressed in the animation, it includes a reverse Eiffel Tower exploded and it appearing within one instant on top of the existing Eiffel Tower.
OK， 谢谢。
Well, anyway,
谢谢 Frank.
Thank you, everyone, and thank Frank, and congratulations to Frank.
At the heart of every smartphone is a power amplifier. Dr. Chang led a team that made history by producing the world's first high-volume gallium arsenide heterojunction bipolar transistor process. How do these inventions work? Well, next, Dr. Peter Zampardi, an expert in building chips for wireless communication, will tell us about Dr. Frank Chang's invention.
Frank is one of the few people that if he ever calls you and needs to get a hold of you, you just drop whatever you're doing because you want to help him. Because over the years, he's gone out of his way to help so many people, both professionally and personally. The main contributions that Frank has made to electrical engineering are two specific technologies. The first one is what would be called a heterojunction bipolar transistor, and another one that we would call BiFETs. The reason that those devices are so special is because they're very good at amplifying signals. If you're going to send a text, even if you're going to use voice or if you're going to do data, you have to amplify that signal so that it can reach a base station so that it can connect to another person. But more importantly, gas HBTs are very specifically good for this application because they have high breakdown voltages, which means they're hard to blow up. So these amplifiers that are based on the technology that Frank worked on are really the key to communicating from whatever handheld device you have or your Wi-Fi router. It allows you more time between charging your battery because it makes you make that amplifier more efficient. So it enables longer talk times. So the influence that Frank's work has had on present-day society is really one of just connectedness. Frank, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you became interested in the field of semiconductors?
After I finished my PhD in Taiwan, I was encouraged by my own parents to take a venture. And in 1979, I immigrated to US. And eventually I went to join the company called the Rockwell Science Center.
So when you started at Science Center, what led you to get involved in gas heterojunction bipolar transistors?
I started working for a different type of technology called the MESFET. We were so intrigued and excited by our work. Usually, we went home for dinner. Then we came back into the lab to work a little bit more and get ready for the next day. So one evening, like any other, I met a young scientist next to me. We're using the same bench. His name was Peter Asper. Then we started to chat with each other. Yeah. I said, B, why are you working so late? Well, P said, Frank, I'm not as lucky as you. I'm working on a new project called the heterojunction bipolar transistor, and I'm doing that alone. He got no help from anyone. So I think to myself, maybe I can use my life and my time and my knowledge better if I can work on something more challenging and which is new. So I look at him, I say, Peter, since you are working on that alone and your project sounds interesting, why why don't you let me to help you in doing it? Let's work together in the evening. And in the daytime, I'll take care of my own business. So from that evening on, we worked every evening together. Evening after evening, we made the steadfast progress. Just unbelievable. Everything we touched that was new, never invented before, never discovered before. We couldn't stop ourselves. Yeah, we wanted to do together day and night to make a difference and to make a reality. And we succeeded. So that was the story.
Wow. So at that time, did you ever envision that gas HBTs would become as ubiquitous as they are? Like they're everywhere in everybody's pocket.
I wish I did, but honestly speaking, we never envisioned. We're just thinking, this is a very interesting device, very challenging.
But it's literally in every single generation of the iPhone, that device.
That's right.
I mean,
That's right.
that should make you feel great, right?
Just unbelievable what you are contributed to and devoted to develop becomes so useful and appreciated. That's a wonderful feeling. It's a great honor to receive this medal award, but I can only humbly accept this medal on behalf of the entire heterojunction bipolar transistor, we call the HBT team at the Rockwell Science Center, Thousand Oaks, California. There, I'm very much in debt to the Rockwell International Company leadership, including Dr. Joe Longo, and Dr. Derek Cheung, who actually later became the Rockwell Scientific president and the CEO, for their visions and the extensive commitment in nurturing and support the entire process of technology development. And the tech transfer afterwards. I want to thank to my colleagues. As you can see in the video, Dr. Peter Asibak, Dr. Casey Wang, Dr. Woojing Ho, Dr. Peter Zambardi, Mr. Dick Pearson, and my two super technicians, Carla and Sue Pittman, both of them has contributed greatly to the technology development. I would like also to pay eminent tribute to the team's advisor, the late Professor Herb Kromer, who later on win the Nobel Physics Prize in year 2000, partially due to the HBT technology impact to the wireless communication. Finally, I would also like to say something for my family. First, to my parents, who educated me and encouraged me to pursue my career in US. Then my wife, Shali, for her selfless encouragement and support for the past 49 years. Next year will be our 50 years anniversary. Shali, would you please stand up? Where are you? Thank you. Thank you. You're always a source of inspiration. Without the half-century support, anything I did in my career will be faded and with no significance. Yeah, thank you, and I also thank to my two children, Albert and Pro, for their love and patience. I also want to thank after the Rockwell time in '97, I moved my career path to UCLA. And there, I was able to continue to develop the technologies and in both the technology device and in the circuit designs. Also want to thank my colleagues like Dr. Asa Mani and the late Professor Ito, Tatsuo Ito, for their constant encouragement and for their advice. Yeah. Thank you very much to all. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chang, and congratulations on your upcoming milestone anniversary. What an inspiration. You made advances in battery technology possible, Dr. Chang, so now I know who to thank when I'm on my 10th hour of watching YouTube. Thank you. Our next award will be presented by Dr. Stephen Chu, Yue-Sai Kahng, and Dr. Tsu-Jae King Liu. Stephen Chu is a Nobel laureate in physics and a former Secretary of Energy of the US. Yue-Sai Kahng is a household name in China, an Emmy Award TV producer, a successful entrepreneur, a best-selling author, and a renowned philanthropist. And Tsu-Jae King Liu is the Dean of Engineering College at UC Berkeley. It almost sounds like a joke. A Nobel laureate, a TV producer, and a university dean walk into a bar. Let's see what happens. Please welcome Stephen Chu, Yue-Sai Kahng, and Tsu-Jae King Liu to the stage.
Hello. It's my pleasure to talk about Dawon Chang and Simon Tse. They co-discovered the floating gate memory effect, which led to the creation of a $100 billion industry. I'm referring here to flash memory devices such as USB thumb drives, memory cards, solid-state drives. Amazingly, today, a $25 device the size of a paperclip can store more than 100 movies and 1,000 books. For more on this amazing development, I give you King Liu.
In 1959, Dawon Chang co-invented the metal oxide semiconductor field effect transistor, or MOSFET for short. This device was particularly well suited for implementing integrated circuit chips, which are used to communicate, process, and store information. Today, the most advanced chips contain over 10 billion MOSFETs on a piece of silicon the size of your thumbnail.
In 1969, Simon Tse published a book entitled Physics of Semiconductor Devices, which became the source of information for semiconductor engineers and students who went on to advance floating gate MOSFET, MOSFET technology, resulting in the flash memory devices we all use today. Dr. Tse went on to publish many more books. There's a story about him comparing the height of all his published books stacked together to the height of his young daughter. At that time, they were of the same height. Here is a short video about Dawon Chang and Simon Tse's co-discovery.
Imagine if all of the information in your smartphone was wiped out whenever you turned it off.
Dr. Kahng and Dr. Tse found a way around it. In 1967, they co-discovered the floating gate memory effect, a discovery that ultimately led to the development of flash memory.
This was the magic micro-device structure to keep your favorite music bottled up in your phone without the power on. Today, flash memory, well, you know it. It serves as the foundation in almost every electronic device. Let's go to Stanford University's Professor Philip Wong
for more on how Dr. Kahng and Dr. Tse's innovation has transformed our lives.
I come to know Simon many years ago through his reputation, certainly, and as I was a student in university, I bought his book, or I should say his books in plural.
Simon wrote so many books that when stacked up were taller than his daughter.
The very first book he wrote, Physics of Semiconductor Devices, it was published in the 60s, and overnight it became the Bible for all the semiconductor device engineers and researchers and students alike.
Semiconductor chips are the foundation of modern electronics. For years, scientists have been working to create a semiconductor memory that was non-volatile, meaning the data will be saved even after the power is turned off. That might sound simple now, but back then it was considered impossible. That was until Simon Z and Dawon Kahng co-invented the floating gate memory,
which we all use today. We have Professor Z to thank for all the data storage devices that we have today, and not only today, but we're still using it for the foreseeable future.
I was born in Nanking, China, 1936. And after graduate from Taiwan University, I came to the United States. After I finished the PhD at Stanford, I got 8 offers, but my advisor suggests I should go to Bell Labs. Because he said at that time Bell Labs is the most prestigious research institute in the world. So I went to Bell Labs. I think they provide a challenging and a stimulating environment. Without their help, I don't think I can discover the effect in 1967.
Can you tell us how it came about? What is the light bulb moment?
Okay, back in 1960s, I worked with my colleague Dawon Kahng, and we tried to find some way to do it, and we failed many times. Finally, one day after lunch, Dawon ordered a cheesecake, 4-layered cheesecake. So we look at the cake and see why can't we modify a semiconductor device and make it also 4 layers. The top one is a metal, second one is insulator, then in the center is a conductor, then followed by an insulator. The conductor there is a floating gate because there's no electrical connection to it. So we went back to try it and quite successful. It is non-volatile. It can keep the information for a long time after the electric power is turned off. So we wrote a paper, and it was published in July 1st, 1967. Dawon Kahng is 5 years older than me. He's more senior at Bell Labs. He's a Korean-American scientist. I think Dawon Kahng is very, very smart because he also invented the MOSFET, which is one of the most important devices for advanced integrated circuits. He passed away in 1992 when he was only 61 years old. That's very sad, yeah. Now almost everything we touch is related to the floating gate memory. The first application is 1983 by Nintendo. The old Nintendo game always go back to the beginning. So for example, you played for 1 hour, you stop it. Next time you have to start from beginning again. But with the floating gate, they can start from the 1 hour point and go on. And from now on, it's into everything. Everything from cell phone, for example, digital TV, credit cards, and the barcode, robotics, big data. We have cloud computing. The camera shooting us, they have floating memory inside. And the impact is so huge. I think it's basically forever changed the world.
So sadly, both Dr. Kahng and Dr. Z have passed away. We're very grateful that some of their close relatives have joined us to celebrate their pioneering contributions. And so I'd like to welcome to the stage both of them, Lily Kahng, the daughter of Dr. Kahng, and Raymond Z, the son of Simon Z. So please welcome Lily and Raymond.
Hello. I am deeply honored and proud to accept the inaugural Asian American Pioneer Medal on behalf of my father, Dawon Kahng. Aside from his wife, Young-hee, and his 5 children, Kim, Vivian, Dwight, Eileen, and me, Lily, my father loved nothing more than science and the United States of America, and maybe cheesecake, I've learned today. He believed in the power of science to change the world for the better, and he left Korea to come to America because he knew that America would give him the greatest opportunities to contribute to that change. He would have been astounded by the scientific advances that have been discussed at today's symposium. He would have been so excited. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to accept this from my father. He would have been thrilled with this award. I want to give just a few very brief insights into Floating Gate. How to describe this? Oh, first and foremost, he always spoke so fondly of his colleague, Dawon Kahng, so it's just a thrill to meet one of his daughters. My mother, who's in the audience, did go to their home. They had 2 grand pianos, and she thinks very fondly of that moment. 1967, when the book was published, was also the year my sister was born. So you can see the parallel growth of them nicely illustrated in that high chart. I will say this, when he invented the Floating Gate memory with Dr. Kahng, their director, thought it was no practical value, thought, don't even bother publishing. But fortunately, they were relatively stubborn. They insisted on publishing it. I will say my father had no idea of its future importance as well. And the things he took away from that is it can take decades to realize the value of something that you've contributed. He also made the point sometimes discoveries don't meet needs, they create their need. Let me talk about physics of semiconductor devices. He was asked at Bell Labs to give an internal course. He said, Simon, why don't you teach about semiconductor devices? He dutifully looked for a textbook. And no textbook was available, so he created his own class notes, and that book represents the expansion of his class notes. He was grateful that Bell Labs created that environment in which he could spend that time writing the book. But I need to let you know it was incredibly hard. For 1 solid year, he left. I was a young child, I think about 5 years old. He left before I woke up, and he got back when I was in bed. For a solid year, my mother tells me when he finally was done with his book, and I saw this strange man, I actually started crying and hid behind his legs. That's how hard he worked on that book. So he taught me the incredible value as well as the sacrifice required to create something of this kind of lasting contribution. It has given me great pride when electrical engineers hear my name. Oh my God, are you related to Simon Z? I have his textbook. Lastly, within the context of Asian American scholars of Chinese origin, he first got his master's at University of Washington in Seattle. And I will tell you this, when he started, he couldn't understand a word his professors were saying. I mean, obviously he was very fluent, but he couldn't understand it, so his response was, of course, to work harder. I also want to share with you, at the time, he could not rent an apartment where most people could. He had to go where the African-American scientists were. So his first roommate was a lovely African-American scientist named John Gardenhire, and they still exchange Christmas cards and recipes. I found so much affection from that. And I'll also share with you, my mother, she was a master's candidate, should have been a PhD, but I came along and destroyed her brilliant career. So, Mom, thank you. And last thing I'll say, one of his motivations for writing the book is that he kept on being passed over for advancement at Bell Labs. People less qualified for him kept on getting the management jobs, and he, due to the frustration, as well as the motivation, that's actually what fired some of his energy to both invent as well as write that book. I will also say that despite this early start, he had tremendous pride, as did Dr. Dawon Kahng, in the potential and promise of this country there. He took tremendous pride in being here and being a young scholar and then a senior scholar. So finally, again, I think he would have been thrilled to accept this award as his alma mater. And on behalf of him, as well as our family, we gratefully accept this honor and award. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lily and Raymond and Mrs. Z. What an incredible legacy Dr. Kahng and Z leave for all of us. Our final award. We're at the final award. Our final award will be presented by Jonathan Levin and Tom Kailath. Jonathan Levin, I see some people already applauding, is the incoming Stanford president. He starts on August 1st in 5 days, so he's not busy at all. and Tom Kailath is Hitachi America Professor of Engineering Emeritus, also here at Stanford, so I know who I need to be nice to if I ever want an honorary degree from Stanford University. Please welcome Jonathan Levin and Tom Kailath to the stage.
Well, it's wonderful to be here, and a tremendous honor to get to present this award to Raj Reddy. Raj Reddy was a pioneer, has been a pioneer in the field of artificial intelligence. He was, among other things, he was the first scientist to develop a system for continuous speech recognition. So many of the ways in which we now interact with computers and will interact with them in the future can be traced back to Raj Reddy's pioneering work.
Yes. It is my pleasure to mention that I had the pleasure of meeting Raj for the first time in 1963 when I was a new faculty person at Stanford, and Raj was a first graduate student. I was a fresh graduate student at Stanford. And he comes from a distinguished heritage, as just mentioned. His advisor was John McCarthy, who was a pioneer of artificial intelligence. And in fact, Claude Shannon and he edited the first volume in 1956, edited a book called Artificial Intelligence.
And Raj was such a pioneer in computer science that between the time that he arrived at Stanford and became the first PhD graduate, Stanford created the computer science department. And now we'd like to tee up a video so you can learn some more about Raj's work.
Over 15 years ago, cell phones were mostly used to make phone calls on the go and send occasional text messages. Today, people can tell their smartphones to play games, watch videos, get driving directions, pay for groceries, board a plane, and a whole lot more. Apple's Siri and Amazon's Alexa enable us to do precisely that without so much as having to touch a screen. For that, we owe thanks to Professor Raj Reddy. Dr. Reddy led the development of the first real-time continuous speech recognition system in the early 70s. Prior to Dr. Reddy's work, speech recognition had been limited to recognizing only short strings of words in isolation. By the late 1980s, Dr. Reddy and his team had constructed a system that could recognize the voice of any person almost instantly. Professor Reddy's lab at Carnegie Mellon has had over the years the largest concentration of graduate students working on speech recognition that have taken that research into the products we all use today. From his humble origins growing up on a farm in India, Dr. Raj Reddy became a true pioneer in the field of artificial intelligence and an inspiration to all of us that have been fortunate to learn from him. Now we are honored to welcome Dr. Alex Acero to walk us through Dr. Reddy's innovation and impact as a pioneer.
Every day that we look at the news, there is something about AI. But back in the 60s, no one even knew what AI was. My name is Alex Acero, and I'm a senior director at Apple. I lead the speech recognition, speech synthesis, language understanding, and dialogue for Siri. A lot of these technologies that we take for granted are something that Raj had the foresight decades ago to get started. We always say, what is the future? Well, let's talk to Raj. You can get a glimpse of what the future looks like. Why did you become interested in speech recognition?
Why did I do it? It was curiosity. Can we actually make computers hear and see and talk?
You started a project that really changed the field on continuous speech recognition. Before there was discrete or isolated speech recognition. What is the difference between the two? Why is it so much harder?
When you're speaking one word at a time, there are gaps. Then you can essentially do pattern recognition on each of the words. But if you're speaking continuously, there's a famous sentence, where were you a year ago? There are no stops, no fricatives, no nothing. It's all vocalized sounds. There's nowhere to say where one word ends and where the other one begins.
Like when you're listening to a language that you don't speak, and someone is speaking a sentence, you don't even know how many words are there because you don't know where to segment them.
Exactly. And at that time, it was not clear how to attack the problem. We now know, if you say, I don't know where the word ends and where the other one begins, you say, okay, maybe it ends here, it ends here. You try all of them. And that's what you do with puzzles.
Today, everyone is using the iPhone to dictate messages. Was that in your mind?
No.
When you started?
Not at all. We were desperate to see if it could recognize digits. Now, in retrospect, after 50 years, you can see if you can speak to computers and then carry on a dialogue, you can do all kinds of things.
I spent 20 years in Microsoft Research, and you were in the Technical Advisory Board, and I remember fondly whenever you would come, like 2 times a year, 3 times a year, we'd have a dinner, and then there would be time for Raj's predictions about the future. Tell us, give us some predictions. What's going to happen?
One is we will kind of get over the language barrier. I don't know if you remember the book by Douglas Adams, where he talks about babblefish.
What do you expect me to do with that? Stick it in your ear. What? It's only a little one.
Which will translate whatever is being said in any alien language in the galaxy.
Excuse me, Ford, but what exactly am I doing with this fish in my ear?
It's translating for you. Look in the book under babelfish.
The digital babblefish will happen. We'll finally get to a point. I can be speaking in Telugu and you can be speaking in Spanish. We'll be able to have a conversation with no problem.
So, by the way, that tells us about language models. Yeah. Now everyone is talking about generative AI and these large language models. But I used to joke that back, at least when I was a PhD student in speech recognition here at Carnegie Mellon, we were using language models. I thought they were large already. Right. So maybe we should change the name to gigantic or ginormous language models now.
That is true. We have come a long way.
And now we'd like to welcome Raj Reddy to the stage.
Thank you for this great honor. I'm very delighted to be around to be able to receive it. As they say, behind every successful faculty member, there is an army of hardworking graduate students working day and night to achieve the success. I have been extremely fortunate to have several gifted graduate students. Many of them have gone on to be members of the Academy of Engineering, and almost all of them are fellows of ACM or IIIT. So I'd like to name a few of them who by themselves have had distinguished careers. The first one was Jim Baker. He was the inventor of the hidden Markov models for speech, and that is still used, it turns out, as a very important contribution. And we had Kai-Fu Lee, and we had Harry Shum. Harry is a member of the National Academy of Engineering. And Zedong, another member of the Academy of Engineering. And a number of others, like Shouman Han and others, that have made major contributions and have had successful careers in their own right. So I'm delighted to be here standing on all of their behalf, receiving this acknowledgement of computers that can hear and see and talk. It turns out when we started, we didn't know this could be done at all. It's never been done. There are no books, no mathematics about how to do any of these things. So I want to thank all my graduate students for this privilege. I want to share one anecdote to give you an idea how hard they were all working. We had a major DARPA demonstration in 1976. The night before, we were running the thing and it broke. And the person whose code it was that was broke was Rich Neely, who happened to be on his honeymoon on that day, somewhere. So I called him up and said, Rich, you have to come right back. Forget about honeymoon or whatever, because without you, this won't work. So he came. And that's how the spirit was. Everybody was working hard to make this a success. And you can't buy that kind of passion and interest. Anyway, thank you all for taking the time to be here, and appreciate your time. And thank you, Harry and Zedong and others that are here I can't see. But anyway, thank you.
Congratulations, Dr. Reddy. Dr. Reddy, I should tell you that in my novel Nikhil Out Loud, there is a lead character named Raj Reddy, and his big climactic moment of finding himself involves language and speech. Coincidence? I don't know, but if you start receiving my royalty checks, please send them back to me. I think I need them more than you. Congratulations, congratulations. I would like to now ask all of our awardees to please come back to the stage for a group photo. They don't have to defend their thesis. I think they've accomplished a lot. This is just for a group photo. And we also have a very special group of young ladies to present you with a special award. Please come to the stage. And if you'll just wait one moment, we have a special gift from a group of very, very special young ladies. Give it to them. And can I ask you all to please stand in recognition of our amazing awardees today and give them another round of applause.